Last year, Pacific's content team produced 1,469,398 pages of digital content for one client. Amazingly, the pages weren't written by hundreds of writers, but mostly handled by a small team of 2, and they didn't even have to pull 80-hour work weeks chained to their laptops day and night. The trick to such productivity is natural language generation software. So what is natural language generation? Natural language generation, or NLG, is a subcategory of artificial intelligence that takes data and converts it into readable prose in the form of narratives or reports. Our NLG software, called CATAMARAN, with the help of human writers, uses thousands of rows and columns of data to tell a story and create content at scale. There are approximately 1.5 billion pages on the internet. While most of them are still written by humans, more and more are being created by NLG every day. The Associated Press uses NLG for its quarterly earnings reports, a transition which has allowed them to increase production from 300 reports per quarter to more than 4,000. NLG tools are used by other organizations to generate everything from stock prices to used car listings. Fortunately, NLG can be used for more interesting content. It can personalize information and present it in a meaningful, engaging way. The Body Space app uses NLG to track users' workouts and serve as a personal trainer by providing individualized messages to encourage appropriate workout habits for the following week. NLG vendors have helped companies such as Yahoo add a touch of humor to otherwise bland reports on fantasy football drafts by crunching numbers and generating content that turns a simple C grade on a draft to a personalized write-up that is more readable and engaging. NLG produces content that feels more personal to the reader than simple boilerplate pages, and in doing so, increases interaction. But it all depends on 2 key components. Data is essential to NLG. Typically, the more data you have, the better and more varied the generated content will be. But it needs to be quality, relevant data. The data also needs to be structured in a way that the natural language generation software can read it. The software generates content, but it doesn't evaluate the data you provide. Determining what data is important depends upon the narrative you want to write. For example, if you were writing about hotels, you would need to know the city and state, as well as certain amenities such as number of rooms, whether it has a pool, if complimentary breakfast is included, etc. To make your narrative richer and more engaging, you might also include nearby attractions and things to do during your stay. Before writing, the data must be in place and checked for accuracy. NLG software innately trusts your data, so if you feed it data that claims the Statue of Liberty is in a hotel in Topeka, Kansas, that's what your content will say. It's up to you and your NLG partner to ensure your data is accurate, which brings us to our other key component. Humans at natural language generation companies, such as Pacific, take an important first step in creating content by analyzing and organizing available data, a task that requires a sharp editorial eye and knowledge of the data being used in the NLG technology. At times, the NLG writer wears the hat of data analyst, vetting and organizing hundreds or thousands of rows of data to bring some sense of order to the chaos. Then, as soon as the data is ready, the writer hat comes on and it's time to find the best possible story using the available dataset. The writer begins to build a template that includes different variations of sentences and paragraphs, multiple synonyms for certain words and phrases, data points, and building branches based on data points. Writers build branches by using NLG tools and Boolean logic, conditional if-then statements, to decide which pieces of content to include based on the dataset. In this example, the writer tells the natural language generation software to scan the data for hotels with a rating higher than 4. If the hotel has a rating higher than 4 stars, it may return the sentence, "You are sure to have a pleasant stay, as this hotel has a 5-star rating." Such branches can be built to include anything from a single word to several paragraphs, depending on how the writer decides to use the data. Despite all the data and fancy software, the writer at an NLG agency still has a lot to do, working in analytics and storytelling with a dash of programming. The content makes a connection when it becomes personalized, localized, and engaging based on the narrative a writer weaves into an NLG template, as it branches off in different ways depending on the data. It may seem like a lot of extra effort to put into your content, but it's worth it to create meaningful content at scale. In this example, 9 writers producing 10 300-word pieces a day, which is a considerable output, would take about 6 years to produce 194,000 pages of content. On the other hand, a NLG vendor such as Pacific can produce that amount in 20 to 25 days. Additionally, NLG content can easily be refreshed and edited at scale according to an organization's changing needs or messaging by making a few changes to the original template, helping to keep content fresh, relevant, and ranking. NLG is on the rise, and Pacific is an experienced NLG agency, having produced more than 2 million pages of meaningful, relevant content. Contact Pacific to see how natural language generation software can help your business achieve its goals.